American 587 Heavy, turn left heading 270, contact departure. The routine departure clearance from John F. Kennedy International Airport on that crisp November morning in 2001 would be the last normal communication from Flight 587. Within minutes, what began as an ordinary domestic flight would become the most devastating aviation disaster on American soil since September 11th, and more tragically, the most preventable crash in United States aviation history. The Airbus A300-600 lifted off runway 31L at 9:14 a.m., carrying 260 souls who trusted their lives to advanced engineering and experienced pilots, unaware that a series of catastrophic pilot inputs would tear their aircraft apart in the sky above Queens, New York. The morning of November 12, 2001, dawned clear and cold across New York City, with light winds and excellent visibility stretching across the metropolitan area. Just 2 months after the September 11th attacks had forever changed American aviation, passengers and crew members approached air travel with heightened anxiety and vigilance. American Airlines Flight 587, a scheduled domestic service from JFK to Las Americas International Airport in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, represented hope and normalcy returning to the skies. The aircraft assigned to this route was an Airbus A300-600R, registration N14053, a wide-body twin-engine jet that had entered service with American Airlines in 1988. This particular aircraft had accumulated over 37,000 flight hours across 13 years of reliable service, carrying millions of passengers safely across oceans and continents. The A300 was known for its robust construction and excellent safety record, featuring advanced fly-by-wire systems and redundant safety mechanisms designed to prevent exactly the type of catastrophic structural failure that would soon unfold. Captain Edward States, 42, occupied the left seat that morning, bringing over 8,000 flight hours of experience to the cockpit. States had joined American Airlines in 1985 and had been flying the A300 since 1999, accumulating nearly 400 hours on type. His co-pilot, First Officer Sten Mollin, 34, brought his own wealth of experience with over 4,000 total flight hours, including significant time on the A300. Both pilots had excellent safety records and had recently completed their recurrent training without incident. The cabin crew, led by purser Maura Ginity, prepared the passenger cabin with the same professional diligence they had demonstrated on countless previous flights, checking emergency equipment and briefing passengers on safety procedures. Among the 251 passengers boarding Flight 587 that morning were families heading home to the Dominican Republic, business travelers, and tourists eager to escape the post-9/11 tensions that still gripped New York. The passenger manifest read like a cross-section of America itself, with names representing dozens of nationalities and backgrounds, united only in their shared destination and tragic fate. Many passengers were Dominican Americans returning to visit family, carrying gifts and hopes for reunions that would never occur. Children pressed their faces against cabin windows, excited for their first airplane ride, or eager to see grandparents they had not visited in months. The loading process proceeded normally, with baggage handlers efficiently stowing luggage, while gate agents processed final passenger changes and catering crews loaded meal service for the 4-hour flight to the Caribbean. Flight 587 pushed back from Gate 22 at Terminal 1 precisely on schedule, beginning its taxi toward the departure runway as Captain States received clearance from ground control. The crew completed their standard taxi checklist, while the aircraft rolled slowly through the complex network of taxiways that connect JFK's terminals to its runway system. Tower controllers were managing moderate morning traffic, with several departures queued ahead of Flight 587. Including a Japan Airlines Boeing 747-400 that would play a crucial role in the unfolding disaster. At 9:11 a.m., JAL Flight 47, a massive 747 bound for Tokyo, began its takeoff roll from runway 31L, generating powerful wake vortices that would linger in the calm morning air. Wake turbulence, invisible tornadoes of disturbed air created by large aircraft, represents one of aviation's most significant hazards, capable of rolling smaller aircraft completely inverted or causing structural damage through violent motions. The International Civil Aviation Organization has established strict separation standards to prevent aircraft from encountering hazardous wake turbulence, requiring smaller aircraft to wait appropriate intervals before following larger aircraft during takeoff. Flight 587 received clearance for takeoff at 9:14 a.m., approximately 3 minutes and 20 seconds after the JAL 747 had departed, meeting the required separation for a heavy aircraft following another heavy aircraft. Captain States advanced the throttle smoothly, and the A300 accelerated down runway 31L, reaching rotation speed and lifting off into the clear November sky. The initial climb proceeded normally, with the aircraft following standard departure procedures while climbing through 1,000 feet above the airport elevation. First Officer Moline handled radio communications, while Captain States concentrated on flying the aircraft, both pilots scanning instruments and monitoring engine parameters, as they had done thousands of times before. At 9:15 a.m. and 28 seconds, approximately 1 minute and 40 seconds after liftoff, Flight 587 encountered the wake turbulence left behind by the JAL 747. The invisible vortices struck the A300 like twin tornadoes, causing the aircraft to roll suddenly to the left and then snap back to the right. Wake turbulence encounters, while uncomfortable and potentially dangerous, are survivable events that pilots train for extensively, requiring smooth control inputs and patience while the aircraft passes through the disturbed air. The proper response involves maintaining control through gentle corrections while allowing the aircraft to stabilize naturally, avoiding aggressive control inputs that could exacerbate the situation or overstress the aircraft structure. However, Captain States reacted to the wake turbulence encounter with aggressive rudder inputs that would prove catastrophically inappropriate. Flight data recorder analysis revealed that he applied full left rudder, then full right rudder, then full left rudder again in rapid succession, creating massive side loads on the vertical stabilizer that exceeded the aircraft's design limits. The A300's vertical stabilizer and rudder assembly, while robust enough to handle normal flight conditions and reasonable wake turbulence encounters, were never designed to withstand the tremendous forces generated by alternating full rudder deflections at flight speeds approaching 250 knots. Each rudder input created stress loads that accumulated in the composite materials of the vertical stabilizer, microscopic cracks propagating through carbon fiber layers until the entire structure reached its ultimate failure point. The sequence of events accelerated beyond human comprehension as structural failure became inevitable. At 9:15 a.m. and 58 seconds, 30 seconds after the initial wake turbulence encounter, the vertical stabilizer separated completely from the aircraft fuselage, taking the rudder with it into the Queen's skyline. The loss of the entire vertical tail section immediately rendered Flight 587 uncontrollable, destroying the aircraft's directional stability and creating asymmetric forces that no pilot could overcome through conventional control inputs. The cockpit voice recorder captured Captain States's final words as he recognized the magnitude of the situation unfolding around them, his voice carrying the weight of realization that his aircraft was beyond saving. Without its vertical stabilizer, the A300 entered a violent flat spin while experiencing extreme G-forces that tore the aircraft's structure apart. Both engines separated from the wings due to the tremendous aerodynamic loads, tumbling earthward like massive projectiles, while the main fuselage continued its death spiral toward the residential neighborhood of Bell Harbor in Queens. The aircraft broke apart completely during its final descent, scattering wreckage across a 15-block area, while residents below watched in horror as debris rained from the clear morning sky. At 9:16 a.m. and 15 seconds, just 2 minutes and 1 second after liftoff, Flight 587 impacted the ground in Bell Harbor, destroying 11 homes and killing 5 people on the ground in addition to all 260 occupants of the aircraft. The impact and resulting fire created a scene of devastation reminiscent of the September 11th attacks, with emergency responders initially fearing another terrorist incident, until investigators determined the cause was mechanical failure rather than criminal action. The wreckage pattern told the story of catastrophic in-flight breakup, with the vertical stabilizer found in Jamaica Bay, nearly a mile from the main crash site, providing crucial evidence that structural failure had preceded the final impact. The investigation that followed revealed the complex chain of events that transformed a survivable wake turbulence encounter into America's second deadliest aviation disaster. The National Transportation Safety Board's analysis of the flight data recorder showed that Captain States had used the rudder in a manner completely contrary to his training and aircraft limitations, applying alternating full deflections that generated loads far exceeding the A300's design specifications. The investigation also revealed critical deficiencies in pilot training regarding wake turbulence recovery and appropriate use of flight controls during upset conditions. American Airlines' training program, while meeting regulatory requirements, had not adequately emphasized the dangers of aggressive rudder inputs or provided sufficient guidance on wake turbulence recovery techniques specific to the A300's characteristics. The airline's simulator training scenarios focused primarily on engine failures and system malfunctions, rather than upset recovery and handling qualities training that might have prevented the accident. The Airbus A300's design came under intense scrutiny, as investigators examined whether the vertical stabilizer should have withstood the pilot's control inputs. While the aircraft met all certification requirements and had demonstrated excellent structural integrity throughout its service history, the investigation revealed that the composite vertical stabilizer was particularly vulnerable to the type of alternating loads generated by aggressive rudder use. The accident highlighted fundamental differences in design philosophy between European and American aircraft manufacturers, particularly regarding the relationship between pilot authority and aircraft protection systems. European designs like the Airbus family incorporated flight envelope protection systems that prevented pilots from exceeding aircraft limitations, while American designs traditionally allowed pilots full authority over flight controls, even when such authority might lead to structural damage. The families of Flight 587's victims faced the devastating task of rebuilding their lives, while seeking answers about how such a preventable tragedy could have occurred. The Dominican-American community in New York was particularly hard hit, having lost dozens of family members, friends, and community leaders in a single morning. The crash site in Belle Harbor became a place of pilgrimage and remembrance, where flowers and memorials honored both those who died in the aircraft and the innocent victims on the ground who were simply going about their morning routines when death fell from the sky. The investigation's findings led to significant changes in pilot training requirements and aircraft design standards throughout the aviation industry. The Federal Aviation Administration mandated enhanced upset recovery training for all airline pilots, emphasizing proper control techniques during unusual attitude situations and wake turbulence encounters. Simulator training programs were redesigned to include realistic wake turbulence scenarios and specific guidance on appropriate rudder use during various flight conditions. Aircraft manufacturers were required to re-evaluate their structural design criteria and provide clearer guidance to operators regarding control input limitations and handling characteristics. The accident also sparked a broader conversation about the role of human factors in aviation safety and the need for better integration between aircraft design and pilot training. The Flight 587 disaster demonstrated that even experienced, well-intentioned pilots could make catastrophic errors when faced with unexpected situations, highlighting the importance of comprehensive training and clear operating procedures. The tragedy served as a stark reminder that aviation safety depends not only on reliable aircraft and systems, but also on pilots who understand their aircraft's limitations and respond appropriately to challenging situations. Modern flight training now incorporates lessons learned from Flight 587, with specific emphasis on energy management, control input restraint, and upset recovery techniques that might have saved the lives of all 265 people who died that November morning. The accident investigation also revealed broader issues within the aviation industry regarding the communication of critical safety information and the importance of scenario-based training that prepares pilots for real-world challenges rather than simply meeting minimum regulatory requirements. As we remember Flight 587, we honor the memory of Captain Edward States, First Officer Sten Mullen, the 8 cabin crew members, and the 251 passengers who lost their lives in what remains one of aviation's most preventable tragedies. Their deaths were not in vain if the lessons learned from this disaster continue to improve aviation safety and prevent future accidents. The children who will never grow up, the parents who will never see their children again, the families torn apart by a few seconds of inappropriate control inputs, serve as eternal reminders of the awesome responsibility carried by those who operate aircraft and design the systems that keep millions of passengers safe every day. The blue sky above Queens on November 12, 2001, seemed no different from countless other mornings when aircraft departed safely from JFK Airport, but it became the backdrop for a tragedy that forever changed how pilots are trained and how aircraft are designed. If you've ever wondered how such disasters can be prevented or want to learn more about aviation safety, please subscribe to our channel, where we continue to examine the critical lessons that emerge from aviation's darkest moments, ensuring that those who died are never forgotten and their sacrifice continues to make flying safer for everyone. The story of Flight 587 reminds us that in aviation, as in life, the smallest decisions can have the most profound consequences, and that the price of safety is eternal vigilance in training, design, and operation of the systems that carry us safely through the skies.